safety? Like, where does it start? How does it start? What was the actual process?
When you're looking at major safety concerns, a fatality, it doesn't come into question what you're losing day to day. There are so many other factors apart from losing life, serious incident, investigations. That's way more of an impact than perhaps we might be delayed by a month or two while we get this right. The boxes were upwards of 80 kilograms, but these machine guns are incredibly heavy. The inspection team have to pick them up and inspect them and move them around. There are a lot of manual handling injuries, back strains, workers' comp claims. Myself and the safety team that were there, we actually went through to achieve a bronze award for implementing safety systems to reduce workers' comp claims by over $1 million.
$1 million is not a small number.
It was significant. The lifting devices, $20,000. Workers' comp back claims, $80,000 to $150,000.
Why do you think zero workers' comp claims is impossible?
There are things that just happen. Workers come to work and it's a supportive environment so that they can actually go home better.
Before we begin, can I have a minute of your time? In Australia, every few minutes, someone gets injured at work, on a work site, in a warehouse, on the road, and in an office chair that they've sat in for over 10 years. And most of these injuries, they were preventable. Our podcast exists for one reason: to have an open conversation about work, safety, and our compensation system. We talk to experts in our field to discuss the good, the broken, and what to improve within the system. Because safety isn't paperwork, it's people, it's the family, it's our future. So if you learn something new from this episode, make sure you subscribe to the AusRehab podcast. And if you or someone you know has a powerful story about injury, recovery, workplace safety, or any related topics, reach out to us. We're always open to guests who move this conversation forward in Australia. Now, let's get into today's episode. We've got a lovely Melissa today as our guest on our podcast. She's been in the industry for 30 years, and she has been the consulting for work health and safety for the past decade or so. Yeah. I think the best way is for yourself to introduce your audience, like say 5 minutes to tell everyone what your background is.
Sure. So straight out of school, into the construction environment, working for a small construction company, and I would have to say probably my first 3 months was photocopying plans. Worked my way through admin management for quite a number of years, probably 5 years, helping the project teams. And there was an opportunity for me to leave my little country town of Armidale up in New South Wales and come to Sydney and manage the office down here, but also develop management systems. The owner of the company had an enormous vision to grow the business, and as a part of growing the business, management systems were required: quality, safety, environmental, and every pre-qualification requirement that was needed to win bigger contracts with the state government, and then later on it was the federal government, the Commonwealth. Every aspect of that then needed a new element of a safety management system or a quality management system to be implemented. So the organisation was across eastern seaboard of Australia, up as far as the Sunshine Coast, and down here to Sydney, and then as out west of New South Wales. So I was responsible for not only the ongoing management systems for all of the office, but also developing and helping the sites and the business to implement all of the other management systems and then get them certified as well. So there was a huge journey of almost 8 years of getting the business through quality, then safety, then environmental, New South Wales government guidelines, and then the chart topper was the Office of Federal Safety Commissioner, OFSC accreditation, which is the highest safety standard that's recognised in Australia, and you need it to tender and to win and to undertake Commonwealth projects.
Commonwealth projects meaning like tier 1 projects? Or?
Commonwealth funded. No, they don't necessarily need to be tier 1, but where there's a significant amount of Commonwealth funding into a project, then you would be needing to be on this register. And the auditing process, the external auditors that come through are not like your ISO auditors. They are next level.
Oh, let's unpack that.
Yeah, they're like auditors on steroids.
Tell me more. Like, what do you, like? How does an auditing process work? Like, in terms of an entire,
to prepare the company and then go through the process.
Yeah, like what does that look like?
So it's an interesting process. So when I first started with the company way back in '96, every time that there was a mention of an audit, everybody would duck for cover, paper would go flying around the office, and everybody would be in this crazy mad rush of fear. And so I watched this unfold for quite a number of years. And then when I was responsible for preparing the systems and preparing the company for it, I don't like chaos. So I looked at all of the chaos and I worked out ways to actually fix it before we actually got chaotic. So let's do this system every day, and then when we have the audits, we don't have to freak out, like the Gestapo's coming to take us down. And that's what it was like. Everybody went crazy. And then what happened was I managed the process, and then it became a much smoother process to the point where we wouldn't get any non-conformances. We'd get, improvements, industry improvements, what was happening. It was a great way for me to learn what was happening outside of the organisation. So at the end, I'd been in this organisation for nearly 12 years. So it was my avenue to be able to see, where's the industry going and what type of improvements can we make in-house.
Is that where you learn majority of your early days of learning in terms of safety and all that stuff?
Yeah, it was a significant amount. I was very hands-on. I'd go to every single construction site. So we were doing projects anywhere from probably, $2 to $5 million up to $40 million projects, and majority of them were state government projects, and they have their own it's called second-party audits, where they're client audits. They would come through and audit us every 3 to 4 months during the life cycle of the project. So there was an enormous auditing regime, but the visibility that I got, each auditor had a different focus. Yep. I learnt to know so much about scaffold, trenches, plant and equipment, you name it. I was learning on the ground. I was a thirsty sponge for knowledge. So that 8-year period of travelling and being involved in the audits and developing the management systems was a significant learning opportunity for me, and I absolutely loved it. It wasn't easy. It was a massive challenge, but there was a lot of support, a lot of professional development, personal development I had.
That's how you grew. That's what got you the resilience and the knowledge.
Absolutely. And also, as we were talking before, I was the only female on site.
Yeah, about that.
Yes. So trying to reel in burly subcontractors, and I think possibly, I don't want to stereotype, but concreters and demolition workers, you try and get them to get their leads tagged or something. And it was a great opportunity for me, though, because I would know what to pick on to get them to talk to me about the bigger issues on site. So I was a little stealthy and I'm not going to say manipulative, but well planned in how to get them to talk. So I would pick on something really insignificant.
Well, that's probably a good tip for the audience. Like, how did you do it to make sure, one part is, you want to get the job done. The second part is you don't want to sound too bitchy, right? Because once you start sounding like that, people are not going to listen to you. Because I've learned that from the hard way as well. Because managing people, it's the same thing.
And there is a fine line, but very strategically, I learnt that if I went in, I don't really know too much.
That trick,
girl on site. At this stage, I was in my mid-20s. blonde girl on site going, "Oh, hi everybody, can we all be safe?" No, that's not what was happening in my head. So pick on a lead or a ladder or something, and next thing you know, it's all out. "Oh my gosh, like you're picking on me for this, but what about what's happening over there?" And I just pause for a second and go, "Oh, cool. What's happening over there? Do you want to talk to me about that? I'd love to hear about it." So then I'd actually get to know what was happening over there. And chances are it was a much bigger issue than, an untagged lead or something. So it was a really good strategy that I was happy to develop early.
So play dumb and then get them to talk. That sounds like
dumb. I would just say innocent.
It sounds like some sort of interrogation by police or something, like, "Hey, what's going on there?"
Well, the stick doesn't work. Yeah, I'm not a fan of the stick. So I much prefer to, what do they say? You attract more flies with honey. Yes. So sweetsy, and I'm not playing down the fact that I'm a woman. It's just that was a strategy that worked well for me to get people to open up to tell me about bigger issues that were happening on the site.
What about, like your colleagues that are guys in your positions? Like, what do they do? Have you seen?
What do they do?
Yeah, so like how do they, essentially interrogate, safety issues out of people?
Oh, so guys typically, now the industry has completely changed for men and for women. But back then, it was very hardcore. Swearing, get the F off the site. There was a bricklayer that rocked up with just normal boots, not safety boots. We had a very strict safety standard, which was enforced. I basically had the approval that if it was my safety way, there was no highway option, and I had that approval from the owner of the business because I knew what his vision was and I knew where he wanted to grow the business. So I would have to say, looking back, I possibly took on a more masculine approach as to how I dealt with people and possibly rubbed people the wrong way a little. Refined my ways in more recent years. I've learnt that I don't have to be a man in a man industry. I don't have to behave the same way because there's a difference. There's definitely a difference.
Let's talk about the recent years. Like what have you been doing for the past, say, 5-10 years?
11 years ago, I started my own business, Insight Safety. And I was very blessed to get onto a major infrastructure project in 2016, which I worked on for 9.5, almost 10 years, watching the...
10 years?
Yes.
One infrastructure project?
Yeah, enormous infrastructure project.
Can you disclose where or whereabouts?
Yeah, at Moorebank. And I was client side, so I was the safety lead for the developer, which is an absolutely incredible opportunity to be a part of a really awesome team. Very knowledgeable team. The directors that I worked underneath, I learnt so much from them, and it was a heavily consultant focused, and having all of that expertise on the one project and being able to collaborate with them, again, it was another opportunity in my career, personally and professionally, to be able to really skyrocket my knowledge and understanding of safety, construction, processes, fine-tuning it all.
Perfect. Let's go deeper. Moorebank. How much can you talk about that?
I'm not sure. Ask me some questions.
Okay, let's go. So, from the get-go, I'm assuming, 10 years ago, that's when the planning started. That's
I think the planning started maybe anywhere up to, I actually interestingly worked at the site in 2011 to 2009 to 2011.
Same site?
The same site. So it used to be the Defence National Storage Distribution Centre. And the company that I worked for, BAE Australia, they had the logistics and maintenance contract for Defence to look after all of their plant and equipment and also the warehousing. So the warehousing site was absolutely enormous. So I think the footprint of the site is about 250 hectares. So it's the same size as the CBD of Sydney. So it's huge. And I was tasked there initially just to do risk assessments then I was offered a permanent role to stay there. So I integrated with the maintenance team. So I worked at the site as well. And in 2011, there was an old rail spur at the back behind the admin building. And we were all laughing because we had heard that the owners of the site were going to put a rail line in. And the one at the back of the admin building had trees growing through it. And we were thinking, what are they going to be doing with this? So we had no idea. And then whole full cycle, it's a import-export terminal, interstate terminal, rail lines coming in, inland container terminal with automated gantry cranes, world-class sort of stuff.
Wow.
Yeah. And so to work there, when it was ex-defence, there were these little old, timber buildings with tin roofs and whatever else, to then it all getting completely demolished and then rebuilt to these state-of-the-art warehousing and logistics facilities.
No, run through the timeline, as in the history. Like, how did that happen? Like, safety. Like, where does it start? How does it start? What was the actual process
for the project?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So I came on board in 2016. The project hadn't actually started any work.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe they started any work for at least 6 or 7 months after I started. So there were already systems and processes starting to be in place with the external consultants that had come on board to prepare everything for the project because it's an enormous.
How many consultants are we talking about?
A lot.
Like a rough figure, 500, 1,000?
Oh, no. Gosh, at a guess, I would say maybe 50 to 100.
Okay.
They would be based in the office, out on site, in their own offices. So it was a lot.
Okay.
Project management. And so there was a team of people that I worked with. I came on board as the construction safety specialist for the team so that I could lead that for the development. So any documents that got prepared, I would review them from a safety perspective, but more so there were people in the offices preparing things, so I would review them to be making sure that they could actually be implemented at a site level. So that's my expertise as well. How is it actually, we've got work as imagined, but are we actually going to do it? So that was my piece to bring to the table for that, was to go, well, that's actually not going to work, or we actually don't need to do that, or we've got a lot of other people to collaborate with. How are we going to do that? What systems are we going to put in place to make sure that this works? And so what was already in place with my client, they already had a ISO certified safety environmental management system. Logistics. So I took that system, redeveloped it into being construction specific specifically for the project, and then started from the very beginning. What would we need as we're procuring contractors? And what does it look like to do all the checks and balances done before they come on site? What does the contract look like? Because if you don't get the contract right, you can't enforce it later on. You can't do things retrospectively. So there's a lot of planning into what do we actually need, what do we need our contractors to do. So that big piece with the smaller construction company that I worked with, I was very hands-on with that. There was a lot of already trial and error type processes that had happened. How do we get it so we get it right as much as possible from the very beginning to save any issues later on?
If I'm hearing you correctly, it sounds like you have some sort of a template of all these like safety policies and procedures, and then you have to go in with your expertise and say, this is possible, this is not possible, get rid of it, or implement others clauses into it.
Yes.
Is that how it is?
That's correct. Yeah. So there were standing requirements in the scope of work documents and the contracts that needed to be specifically written in there because we needed, so very simple thing like monthly project reporting.
Yep.
You don't write that in. You're not getting your contractors to provide you with a safety report every month. So there's project reporting that gets done, but sometimes it might just say project reporting and it might not have any specifics about what sort of safety metrics do you want them to report back on. So unless you detail that,
Right.
they'll be like, well, it's not in the contract. So that'll cost you extra to get that data.
Oh, right. Okay, like, I don't know, any other cool stories that, you've experienced having a not having a right contract that's costing people a lot of money or costing companies a lot of money?
Yeah, loads. But great lessons.
Yeah.
But I have a great positive from having it implemented well. So when you have a serious incident involving regulator investigations and the systems and processes that you put in place to monitor and oversee your main contractors that you've got on the site, once you go through the process and it's tested to see whether it's what you're putting in place is reasonable, practical and fulfilling your obligations under the regulations and the Act, when that's tried and tested and it's somewhat successful, you can have a fair degree of certainty that those processes of scoping the work, planning, pre-planning, getting it right at the beginning, procurement and what you do in your procurement processes, and then how you monitor your contractors, you get all of that right. And then you've got the opportunity to say, okay, we've done everything reasonable and practical.
Is there like a cool story that you can, tell us about that? Or is that off the liver kind
I
of
could
thing?
probably say that it's been tried and tested, and I'm quite confident that the processes work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's fine.
Yeah.
In terms of the actual contract, to an outsider, what does it look like? What are the terms like?
Of the contract,
Yeah.
specifically for safety,
Uh-huh.
it would be understanding what we need. And every client needs different things, or they want to see different things from a reporting perspective. So it could even be that let's say for the Moorebank project, there was a huge collaboration piece. Huge, because we had interfacing contractors, interfacing work, fences changing. So the logistics of having anywhere up to 7 to 9 major principal contractors working in a particular area, and somebody needing to get a service over there, or needing to close off that road, or needing to get access into here for their works, it was about having a lot of collaboration with them and interface meetings. So getting them all on board from a safety perspective is what's coming up over the next week. So there was a time when the site, and still is an east and a west, and the west was installing these massive bridge structures, and so they had to get them, they're called the Super Ts for the bridge work.
Mm-hmm.
And they were getting them delivered. But at the same time, another contractor was working on the road, the main road to come into the site, and it was a public road to come into the site, which was night works, which they were shutting down half of the road. So I was a part of the interface coordinating meetings with the West and also the East. And the connection between what was happening on the East and the West was that these night works were going to happen at the same time that the Super Ts needed to be delivered. And I just asked the question of, can the Super Ts get through while you're, shutting down half of the road? And the answer was no. So I was like, well, okay, you guys need to chat.
And
you
then
need
what
to
happened?
you need to work out. So they just coordinated the works so that they could actually have the road opened while the delivery was coming through, and they worked out how they needed to do that from their end.
Oh.
But it was the identification piece that they could have had significant roadworks, which would have meant that the big truck deliveries couldn't come through. So coordinating. So it helps with not only from a safety perspective of getting the trucks in and out safely, but also from time delays, work progress, those types of things. So it's not just safety.
That's cool. That's really cool. Like, you're saying, like, 2 different parties. What if there's like more than 2 different parties?
We had loads, and we had up to 7 to 9 major principal contractors.
What happens then? Are there multiple people in your positions that are, negotiating all the time? Like, how does that
So
look?
I would work with the principal contractor's safety team,
Mm-hmm.
and we would meet regularly, but we would also have weekly interface meetings, and that would be with the project teams to help to understand what was happening and whether there were any safety implications.
You got to help me on that. What's the principal project safety? Principal contractor.
So the principal contractors,
Yep.
so I was the safety lead for the developer,
Uh-huh.
and then the developer engaged major contracts to do certain packages of work at the site.
Yep.
And there's a whole piece about how they got engaged, and they weren't allowed to come on site until I had done the checks and balances. So there was a system in place to say that we needed to see all of these things in their management systems, and then we would work with them so that they could satisfy those requirements before they started work.
We'll go there later. But so one developer engages a principal contract.
Multiple principal contractors.
Multiple.
Multiples.
So it's not one.
No, we
why do
had
they call it principal. Sorry.
because it was for the element of the work. So, like I said, the site was the size of the CBD in Sydney.
Uh-huh.
So imagine how many construction sites are going on in Sydney at the moment.
Yep.
Yep. So they've all got their little packages. So
okay.
you might have somebody doing demolition and remediation and groundworks. You might have somebody building a warehouse. You might have somebody doing access roads. You might have another major contractor doing, I don't know, electrical infrastructure works or something. So it's coordinating them. Or at one point we had, I think, 4 or 5 different contractors building warehouses. So different contractors building warehouses at the site and getting access. One principal contractor was responsible for the access for those. So how is all of that managed? Traffic control.
So you were engaged by the developer, and then you were trying to manage all these different principal contractors. How? Like, as in, like, did you go and like, I'm thinking, God, like I'm thinking, like, my brain's gone. They're not
at
the moment.
They're not in any regard like small contractors.
Yeah.
They're well-oiled machines themselves. So their safety team, so sometimes they would have 3 or 4, they might have 1, 3, 5 in their safety team. So I would work with them a lot. But I left it to them. I wasn't, sitting at their desks every day, hawk-eyeing them, making sure that they were.
So what did you, I guess, maybe instructing them is not the right word, but like, how did you guys collaborate?
We collaborated.
Like,
we talked.
Like, what sort of topics?
Communication. So, oh my gosh, loads of different topics. So there could be anything about dust, truck movements. So hundreds and hundreds of truck movements a day.
That you have to go down on? Or like, how does it work?
Yeah, I would facilitate the safety meetings, and there would be, rolling topics on the safety meetings. It could be anything from the weather, the dust, significant dust when it was all just dirt as well. So how the dust was being managed, community engagement.
What's that? What does that entail?
A whole separate department outside of mine. So there was a whole external consulting team for community engagement and how that all worked with the environment and what was happening in the immediate area, the noise. There was a consultative committee with the locals in the area as well. So that was all externally managed as well.
Dust, noise, anything else that you guys would discuss?
Traffic,
uh-huh.
the work that was happening, interface management, ongoing safety topics. So what was a hot topic? So incidents that have happened across all of the principal contractors, information from the regulator. So another big piece was the New South Wales, Safe Work New South Wales has a infrastructure team. And so very early on, I collaborated with the regulator and the infrastructure team. We were allocated to inspectors, and they would regularly come to the site and check what was happening, and I was able to work with them to say what's hot on our topics, what can I talk to our team about, and then we would talk about those things as well.
Okay. Anything else? The regulators? No.
Big pieces. It's all big stuff as far as the topics that we would talk, because all of the contractors were doing different work. Environment stuff, making sure that stuff wasn't running off onto the site. It was a big piece. So we met monthly, but we had our interface meetings weekly.
Weekly?
Yeah, because there was so much going on. And the site was changing so frequently.
Damn.
Yeah. Access into the site would change. So we'd have to move the main access from, one end of the road, and then other work needed to happen. So then there was a whole engagement piece with all the contractors as to, well, now it's, 200 metres north. So what does that look like? The building of all of the infrastructure for that as well.
Wow, that sounds nuts.
There are a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go back to the contracts, because that was an interesting thing that you picked on just then. Like, when you start negotiating these contracts, like you're representing the developer to negotiate these contracts.
I wouldn't typically be negotiating any contracts, but I was sitting as a subject matter expert for the safety side of things. So the project management team, I would say, so we would have project management meetings as well.
Yep.
Team meetings, and I would say what's coming up, who's coming on board, can I have a look at the contract, making sure that we've got our right references, all of the information that we need from a safety perspective, because I was doing all of the monthly reporting as well, board level, upward reporting information for the developer. So I needed to make sure that the contracts started right, so that when they submitted their monthly report on time, so I needed the time frame as well. We needed to be making sure that it aligned with our internal time frames, and it meant that I could send a little friendly reminder to say, hey, your report was... It's due, overdue, I need it now.
Overdue is common?
Some, yes. But they were a great team. I could just, send them a little email and say, hey, can we get this?
Oh, there's a question I want to ask. Is there one particular, indicator or indicator is probably the right word, that you always have in these contracts so that you can, monitor the safety?
There was a whole scope that was required. A couple of lag indicators, and they were just required because typically in the industry people like to see them for whatever reason. I'm not a fan of them, which is your LTIFR and your TRIFIT. Yeah. So, I mean...
LTI is in lost time?
Lost time injuries, lost time injury frequency rates, total incident frequency rates, those types of things. I really like seeing the leading indicators.
Which are? What are they?
Toolbox talks, the pre-starts.
Hold on, let's go slowly. Like, what's that? Because, look, I'm an outsider, as you can tell.
Okay.
But what are those?
So that's where the contractor is engaging with their workforce, consulting with them on various topics. So in our safety meetings, the teams that come to the meetings of the principal contractors, they would be telling us what they have actually rolled out across their site for the month. So there was a whole piece of collaboration engagement internally with us in our little team. And it would then, so say for example, when silica, concrete cutting, all of that type of thing, there was contractors that would come into our safety meeting and they would say, this is a toolbox talk that we've done with our team and this is what we've implemented. So there's this team that now have these dust extraction systems on the concrete saw cutters and those types of things, so that the risk of exposure to the workers is significantly reduced because of the engineering controls that they put in place. So we got to share all of that information with the teams.
Toolbox talk is essentially telling each other, what sort of equipment you guys have.
Oh, it could be anything. It could be different promotions that they're running, their focus topics that they've got in their business. Some of them will have taglines, rolling out different internal programs. It might be mental health. It might be, high risk construction activity focus, like moving plant. It might be something on the back of an incident that has happened in another business unit of theirs, not typically at our site.
Yep.
It could be any number of things. It could also just be an industry focus or something of interest in their company. And then they bring it to the table and we got to share it with all of our contractors at those forums. So understanding what toolbox talks they're holding with their workers was helpful because I'm all about sharing the information.
Yep.
And it was a really good opportunity to share that.
Oh, that's cool.
Yes.
That is cool.
Yeah.
Okay, what else apart from that?
Risk assessments that they would do. senior leadership engagement, what that looked like for their companies.
What does that mean? Sorry.
It means that the senior leaders of their organisation would come to the site and they'd actually actively participate in an inspection or an engaging conversation with workers on the ground, so that they could actually get an understanding of what they think's happening in the boardroom is actually what's happening out on the ground. So there's direct connection with the senior leaders to the ground.
Sorry to sound a little dumb. Okay, whenever I hear a senior or management coming to site inspections, right? A painting comes in my head whereby, say, a dictator from a country, it's all nice and cheery up the top. When they come into the actual inspection, everyone packs everything away, all the bad stuff. They just shove it away, make it look good, so that when the actual leader comes in, everything looks perfect. Is that what happens? Can I even ask that question?
I think there's different levels of what can happen, and it really depends on the company. I'm really blessed with the companies that we had at that site, and also typically the clients that I work with. I'm a bit particular about who I work with.
Okay.
And so I'm very happy that the people that were there and the contractors that were there, they're actively engaged. So they have process in place to ask the right questions.
So it's like a true reflection of the actual site themselves.
It can be, yes. And it's like any system, if it's implemented well and there's enough guidance, material and training for people, then yes. And it's also then what happens with the information. So if something is raised and nothing is done about it, people will generally just eventually go, well, there's no point saying anything, so I'm going to remain tight-lipped.
Yep.
If the company has a process where things are raised with senior management and then something is actively done about it, then you're more likely to have people go, oh, I was listened to. And things have actually happened for our benefit on the ground, or processes have changed, or I've got that, $200 piece of equipment that's going to make me more efficient and safer.
Is there something that happened in the past where that actually happened? So like, some sort of inspection or whatever it is, and then someone has openly talked about an issue that you guys have? Then you went back and actually...
you're really tapping into my brain with that one.
Yeah.
Gosh, I could probably think of a lot, but right now I can't. But in a previous role, I can think about where a senior manager, a manager of an environment has told me about a difficulty that he's had with senior management. And this was in a role that I had where I was advising to a particular area. And
can you tell what area?
It doesn't exist anymore. So it was the armory at where I previously worked at the DNSDC down at Moorebank.
Yep.
And the armory supervisor was having issues with worker injuries. They were lifting very heavy kit. So think, 80 kilogram boxes holding machine guns, and it was a really cool environment actually. They would have to pick up the equipment and inspect it. So they were the workshop repair place for defence equipment and armory.
Well, hold on. What do you mean, like pick up 80 kilograms and inspect 80 kilograms?
So the boxes were probably upwards of 80 kilograms, but these machine guns are incredibly heavy. I'm all credit to anybody who has to carry one out in the field. So they're enormously heavy, and they have to pick them. So the inspection team have to pick them up and inspect them and move them around. And there are a lot of manual handling injuries, back strains, workers' comp claims. In this role, myself and the other two people in the team, the safety team that were there, we actually went through to achieve a bronze award from BAE Australia as a whole for implementing safety systems to reduce workers' comp claims by over $1 million.
How did you guys do that?
In 2 years.
Tell us more. Because look, if there are any companies that are watching this, they will want to know how you guys did it. $1 million is not a small number.
It was significant. So the site had inherited defence workers. There were systems and processes in place, obviously warehousing, logistics and maintenance, so very manual handling, heavy industry at the time. And this particular example was I had received the frustrations from the supervisor in the area about he kept on getting pushback because he wanted some lifting devices. There was a safety show. I went to the safety show. I got some information. I said, is this the type of things that you'd actually like? And he said, yes, it is. And I said, okay, great. Let me do a business case for you on the number of workers' comp claims that you've had in just your area. Mm-hmm. So we had over 300 staff at that site.
Yep.
And the maintenance area probably made up, I would say, over a third.
So around 100 people.
Almost a half.
Yep.
Actually, no, probably a third because there was a lot of warehousing staff. And I was in the maintenance team at the time. I was integrated into their team and helping them to develop their safety management systems and processes in their area. And I said, I'm going to do a business case for you. And so I did the business case on this particular issue that they had, the piece of kit that he wanted to get implemented. It was really just hydraulic lifting arms to help to lift them up, spin them around with like a easy hook attachment so they could hook it on, and some rollers. So that once they got off the delivery truck, they could just go on the rollers. Nobody needed to do any manual handling other than to get them onto the rollers. And so I did the business case, and it turned out that the lifting devices, $20,000. Workers' comp back claims, some long-term ones where you could imagine what they would be.
A lot.
In excess of, I think probably the average across the business for a back claim was $80,000 to $150,000.
That sounds excessive, but yes.
They were long-term significant claims.
100 people. Usually, you get like what, 3, 4, 5% injury rate? More. There.
It was significant.
Like what, 10%?
I don't know the exact figure. I could pull out my business case and tell you, but in that particular work environment where there was probably about 30 or 40 people, I think at the time there were like 5 or 6 long-term claims.
Wow.
So I did the business case and I said, well, this is what it costs. These are the legislative requirements. This is what, if we have another back injury, this is what you're potentially going to be spending as a minimum, plus all of the, the non-tangible stuff like the replacement of somebody to do their job, having to get them back into the workplace, all of the admin to do all of the rehab management and claims management. I'm not even going to put a figure on that, as opposed to $20,000 or $30,000. $20,000 for the lifting equipment, a few $1,000s for the rollers.
And then maintenance on that as well.
Yes. Yeah. So the manager, from what I understand, I'd only been at the company for probably a year when this all came about. He had been possibly requesting this for a number of years, and he was getting really frustrated because it impacted his work and his ability to, do his monthly KPIs or, get his team to working.
Why was it getting pushed back? Do we know?
Because there were so many levels. In a large organisation, you can't go, I just want lifting equipment. So there's processes for sourcing equipment. There's processes for doing risk assessments on what type of equipment that you want. And I think the expertise in-house to do that wasn't there. So it just became this spinning the wheels of, I need this. I haven't followed the right processes. Management's like, well, you're not going to get it. And then I put the business case forward and they really couldn't argue with the numbers.
Yep.
And so not only did he just get 1, he got 2 and all the rollers. So it was a success.
Well, that makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
As well, touching back on the programs that were implemented, I'm all for wellbeing. So I much prefer the preventative side of things rather than the workers' comp injury management side. That's my preference is on let's get everybody home.
Tell me more about that then. Preventative. Like, what's your favorite? Like, favorite things to do to make sure that injuries doesn't happen?
Some of them can be so simple. So the things that we rolled out at that site, so we had a lot of overweight staff, sedentary workers.
Yep.
And they'd been doing their roles for a long time, do their roles really well, but it was a matter of let's get them active. So I asked and again did another business case for rolling out health and wellbeing programs at the site. I'm like, can I get a budget for this? So they gave me a budget, and most of the stuff that I did actually was not costly at all.
What
most
were
of them
they?
are free. So back then we had a significant participation of Weight Watchers.
Okay.
Yep. So just for giggles, I joined as well. I was
lovely. It's fine.
I know. I wanted to lose 2 kilograms and get fit to climb Kilimanjaro. Meanwhile, we had people who would go to the bathroom and lose more than that. So it was. Yeah, everybody laughed. They're like, why are you doing this? I'm like, well, first of all, I want to be here to support the team. And it's the first time that we've rolled it out. So I'd actually like to, I was like, let's get this rolling, let's get engaged. The participation was incredible. And the amount of weight that the whole cohort lost, it was amazing. So there was that. There was free at the time Get Healthy New South Wales programs. We had quit smoking programs. And then because I'm a very active safety person, so I'm always on the floor. So they're warehouses. I was never at my desk. I was always on the floor chatting with people who were on workers' comp. How you going? Do you need any more support? Is there anything that you need at your desk? How are we going with that? Oh my gosh, do you need a new chair? Oh, do you know what? I do ergonomics. Can I
help you?
Can I just make a couple of little changes to fix that for you? And I'm going to come back next week and see how you feel. Because I'll be like, do you get a sore neck or a shoulder? And they got their mouse is running away. It's all the way over here. I'm like, simple change.
It's a mouse pad. That's it.
Just stick it here.
Yeah.
Keep it close to you. How you sit at your desk. They're sitting at their desks for a long time. So little tiny things, but the key thing is that I knew all of their names and I knew what was going on with them. So I knew where their workers' comp claims were up to. I could see people who were probably very sedentary and I'd be like, hey, do you want to come and join our Weight Watchers? Come on board.
God,
really exciting program.
I'm thinking right now, if you say that to someone's going to give you a harassment claim or something.
No, it's health and well-being. It's like, we've got this. You want to come? I'm doing it. So why wouldn't you come along? We do walking meetings. So we'd hold walking meetings. The site was 1 kilometre long. We had golf carts to drive around between the warehouses. And so we'd organise walking meetings. We would go out and
walk and talk.
Yeah,
I actually love that too, because I realize, when you're walking and talking, especially for me, it's you're just getting a coffee or something. I actually did it this morning. Anyways, let's go back to, talking about the bloody safety.
Yeah, so the health and wellbeing piece was so rewarding. And then we obviously have National Safe Work Month. So with National Safe Work Month, we would do all sorts of things. So I would get in guest speakers. I would get Safe Work New South Wales to pop in. It would be what's happening in our industry, what sort of technical things, engineering devices, those types of things. So it'd be targeting things that were actually beneficial for the people.
And these are all preventative work that you guys are doing?
Yes.
Okay.
Health and wellbeing programs to be beneficial so that workers. So my philosophy is that workers, people say, we want to be making sure that we keep our workers safe so they get to go home, in the same condition that they arrived. Mine personally is you get to go home the same, if not better than. So yes.
I think that's a very good
yes.
A very good way, a much better way.
Well, it's you can come to work and go home, but if you came to work in a shitty mood or unhappy and then you go home in that, it'd be great to come to the workplace and, obviously we've got EAPs and mental health awareness and those types of things, all of the psychosocial risks and how they're being managed in the workplace. So you would hope that workers come to work and it's in a supportive environment so that they can actually go home better.
That's interesting.
You like that?
I like that. I actually love that.
I'll have to trademark it, but you can use it.
Thank you. Trademarking it will be good because I think
No, anybody can have it. They can all have it.
Yeah,
it's fine.
I think the general consensus around the entire industry is that just go home safe. Like, I think that's not enough. Like you said, I don't think that's not enough.
I think 0 personally unachievable, but I definitely think people coming to work and going home better is definitely achievable with everything that's available at the moment.
Why do you think 0 workers' comp claims is impossible?
Oh, not 0 workers' comp claims, but 0 harm.
Okay.
There are things that just happen. And yes, when all of the Swiss cheesy bits align and something terrible happens, sometimes you can look back and you can, you find the root cause and you can prevent it from happening again. But sometimes
freak accidents do happen.
Freak accidents happen. Rarely, but they do happen.
Can I ask you, what's the worst or most, either one, worst accident you've ever seen or the funniest accident you've ever seen? Should we even put the word funny in there? I actually don't know. But
I personally wouldn't combine the two, but oh gosh, like the nonsensical one?
Sure, any of two. Give us
I
two
don't know,
examples.
I typically don't laugh at accidents. It's not in my nature. I do get sent a lot from my friends who think that it's funny to send me things, and I'm like, I don't want to watch this.
Yeah.
But the worst that I've only ever experienced one fatality in my whole career. Yep. Which I'm, it's very humbling to go through something like that. The processes that went for that to happen were so many. There were so many things that happened. But it was the worst. So it was at this site, and the big sprinkler pipes fell off a truck onto the truck driver.
Sprinkler pipes?
The really large industrial red sprinkler pipes that you see in warehouses. Yeah, so there was a delivery of those coming to the site, and a sequence of events occurred, and
Can you go, unpack it slightly more so that, I guess this is to help people or educate people so that other people can, make sure that never happens again?
Yeah, so we, at the site, following the investigation, we implemented new strategies from the developer side of things. So in this initial review that I would do of the contractors' safety management systems, there were new, seemingly very simple things that we put into place so that I knew that any future principal contractors and existing contractors that were coming on site, so they all got notified, this is a new requirement, you must have this in your safety management systems now.
What's this?
It was specific truck driver delivery induction procedures and processes that needed to be followed to ensure the safety of the delivery drivers. They are inherently across, I would have to say, logistics and construction, an afterthought of they're just coming and delivering something and leaving.
Yep.
They sort of sit on the fringes of the construction work because they just pop in and then they pop out. But when you actually break it down, they're quite significant because they're on the site for a short period of time.
Yep.
They're not familiar with the environment. They typically don't get inducted. There's typically not adequate exclusion zones for them, or communication around where they need to be or what they can and can't do. So there's a huge gap potentially if it's not managed properly. So following the fatality, one of the links that we got to close was that at the very beginning, new contractors come on board, that would be something that I would check to make sure that their systems catered specifically for this transient workforce coming and going, and how they were communicated with and what hold points did they have to make sure that those things were done.
So what sort of actual, system did you put in place? Like you mentioned induction. So like what happens, like what was the thing that, you inputted into the inductions to make sure that they're safe?
So some of the key requirements that we had, so I wouldn't implement the inductions
Yep.
or I wouldn't implement, but I
Yep.
would recommend that as a minimum, our contractors had these specific things in place. There was an induction so that, they knew where they were going.
Yep.
There was specific loading and unloading zones and they were delineated.
Yep.
And that there were safe zones for the drivers. And the operators, if they were site-based operators of forklifts or cranes or whatever else, that they also understood the procedures, that there were safe zones for the drivers. So if the drivers weren't where they're meant to be, no operations were undertaken. So they would not unload the truck if the truck driver was not in their safe zone. It doesn't just stop there though, because the other side of things that we had was monitoring.
Yep.
And the monitoring side that we had from the developer's perspective was we had another consultant that would come in and do monthly site inspections and audits of every single contractor, every single month across the entire estate. And what that did for us is that the auditor would have the safety management plan.
Mm-hmm.
They would audit the implementation of it. So this is where you get things right at the beginning. You set the criteria for what you need to see in that safety management plan. So you scope it all out. You then allow the contractor time to implement it. And then you come back and you review the implementation of it. So if it says that the truck drivers need to have exclusion zones, the auditor would come and they would assess.
Yep.
And they would need to visibly see the processes, the safe work method statements, the inductions, those types of things, and physically see it on the site. There was deliveries being undertaken multiple times a day. And the auditor would be able to see that those processes were being followed. And if they weren't, obviously there were improvement opportunities or non-conformances issued to them.
Yep.
And then we'd close the loop because they'd have to close those out, and then it would get looked again at the next audit to be making sure that they're actually implementing what they said that they had.
That's a good question. Let me follow up question on that. Like you said, non-conformity of these auditors. If there was non-conformities, like multiple ones, what usually happens then?
They get additional supervision monitoring processes. Typically, again, very blessed. The contractors that we worked with were very good. Mm-hmm. So if there was something that got identified, they would be rectifying it straight away, probably even before the audit had been finished. And as soon as it had been identified during the audit, they were fixing it. They were very active in making sure that they were doing the right things. Yep. We did have situations where multiples of the same types of incidents were happening. With earth-moving machinery, doing different things. So we would then have special targeted audits to say, well, this is happening across multiple contractors across the site. So we're going to do basically a blitz audit on specifically about earth-moving machinery or moving plant on construction sites. It would be specifically looking at those areas of the safety management plan, the codes of practice and the guidance material that's available, and be making sure that it's all compliant. And then if it isn't, again, raising the non-conformances or the observations, action items, and then following them closely through to closure to make and improving, the safety standard of the site about particular things.
Can I ask, what if a contractor gets all these non-conformities and they still continuing on with their ways? What happens then? Like, does the contract get ripped up? I do mean the actual contract get ripped up.
No, so I've had a situation where we had repeat poor safety performance and very questionable safety, let's say work processes that weren't safe.
So some were like a breach.
Oh, they were breaches, but they were, eyebrow raising. And because there were significant numbers of smaller incidents occurring in a short period of time, so I think from memory, going on numbers, possibly 6 or 7 in a 2-month period, plus a site inspection that identified some very subpar work processes, shut the site.
Shut the site.
Their site. Shut it. And removal of the safety manager, call to order the senior leaders, sit with them as in how you need to demonstrate to us how we're going to open this site again. You need to provide us with the methodology that you're going to follow. What does that look like? And then we'll get that signed off. Updated safety management systems, and then you can start back on site again.
But wouldn't shutting the site cause the developer a lot of money as well?
When you're looking at major safety concerns, a fatality, it was a significant risk. It doesn't come into question what you're losing day to day. There are so many other factors apart from losing life, serious incident, investigations. That's way more of an impact than perhaps we might be delayed by a month or two while we get this right.
Oh. You know, that's a funny point. Actually, not a funny point, but it's an interesting point because we had another safety manager on here maybe a few weeks ago, and then he was saying something along the lines of just a Band-Aid injury usually costs the company $1,000 or something.
Right.
Is that, how is that what you see in your
I haven't
practice?
done a cost analysis on that, but
okay.
No.
Would you be surprised then that does cost that much? Because he was saying something along the lines of, sending them to the first aid room, the reports that comes with it, the forms that he has to fill out. Chances are that's going to cost $1,000.
It would depend. My personal experience depends on the company and perhaps what digital platforms they have available for their reporting systems. If you've got a robust reporting system that all staff, QR code, fill in your details, submit it, grab yourself a Band-Aid, let the first aid officer know, probably a little bit more efficient than having to go to the first aid person, having to talk to the supervisor, downtime of tools, getting your first aid, those types of things, dust in the eye. There could be non-tangible costs that obviously impact that. As to what that looks like, it would be very different across every single environment that you would come across because there's just different platforms that people use and some are a lot more efficient than others.
Like what? What do you mean? Like, how are they different?
It depends. So you might have somewhere where it's completely site-based, paper-based. So it means that somebody has to physically, sit there and write the form and then somebody has to scan it and upload it into the system, or then it gets handed to another, admin person, safety person that needs to enter that into maybe they've got a digital platform, maybe it's an Excel spreadsheet. There's so many variables. And then the systems and processes might say that every single incident needs to be investigated and there's an investigation form. How did this happen? Because even a small incident, right, might be an indicator that there's a bigger issue. It just depends on the company's interest in, how far do they want to go.
Is it actually common for a small incident to lead to a big incident, a big issue, I should say?
Oh, that's just such a broad question.
Is it? Okay. All right, we'll skip it then.
One that I can't answer, in all honesty. I'm sure there's a research piece right there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Well, I think even there's the discussions currently about Heinrich's theory of, for every 300 near-miss reports that you've got 30 first aid incidents or whatever the numbers are and, 3 lost time and then 1 fatality or whatever the triangle looks like. And it's pulling apart to say, well, it really doesn't matter. It's just a theory.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So that's I see that's a hot topic at the moment that's been discussed.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Okay, so going back, because it's actually, a topic that we were saying that we're going to go back. All these contracts, like how are they drafted? Like how long does it take?
I'm not sure. That usually happens before it gets to my desk. They're usually drafted by, the legal team, the project team. This construction team, they normally do everything that needs to be done there. And as a piece that I'm involved in is literally knowing what's happening in the project, knowing what work activities are going to be undertaken, understanding what my upward reporting requirements are.
Isn't a part of your role to, amend these contracts or to look into these contracts?
From a safety perspective, sometimes the contract is already written and then it will be the statement of work or the scope of work will have more detailed specifics. And that's my opportunity because it gets attached to the contract. That's my opportunity to say, actually, we've got these very specific reporting requirements. We need this specific information so that everything is streamlined and standardized. And at the end of the month, I can compare apples with apples and I don't have to try and extrapolate data from various different things that don't look the same. So it allows me to standardize things.
Yep. Okay. And I guess, let's wrap it up with one last question. What is the one indicator that you've seen that's very consistently that tells there is an issue like boiling underneath? Like
communication problems.
What's that? What do you mean by that?
Is when people are not forthcoming with being open about what's happening on their sites. They're very very keep their cards close to their chest. Again, I'm very lucky. I haven't experienced that a lot. Resistance to collaboration. So if you're working with a lot of different contractors and somebody's not resistant, if somebody is resistant, it really stands out. It's like, why? Why would you be resisting collaborating?
In a sense that they're like hiding the issues, or what do you mean?
I don't know. It could be. It could stem from lack of understanding. Lack of understanding about the issue. For example, we had a major interface at a internal heading into external intersection roadway, multiple contract interfaces, large like Moxie Hall roads, moving copious amounts of dirt around the site. It was a main internal access into the site, and so there was estate management, traffic management, principal contractor management, multiple principal contractors. And there were issues, and some of them were external issues, let's say Uber drivers, and coming in, ignoring that the boom gate was down, abusing traffic controllers, those types of things. But it wasn't just that, it was the entire interface piece. So it was raised in one of our collaboration meetings that, this is about to go gangbusters because all of these things are starting to happen. And then somebody said, well, how are we going to know that we're doing it right? I said, okay, that's a very good question. Let's get in our infrastructure regulators and take them for a drive around the site. We don't want to invite them. Why not? Oh, because then they'll know if we're not doing something right. I'm like, well, aren't they the best ones to ask that question to? Because if the shit hits the fan, you're going to want to be able to say, we've actually consulted with the regulator because this is actually a really complex activity that's about simple but complex. So many moving parts. And there were some people that were like, Mel, what are you doing? Why are you inviting the regulator here? Now, I've been friendly with the regulators for so many years. The benefits of being able to actually have a healthy discussion with them about, guys, I don't know what I need to do here. Like what from a regulator's perspective, what does best practice look like? So I said, look, it's okay. Just let me do this. It'll be fine. I promise. They're nice guys. And the team, like the regulator team, they'd been out on the site. They're familiar with it. Brought them out, took them for a site drive, and we really only got maybe one thing that they suggested was just have a consistent approach, because on some other areas across the site, we just had traffic controllers which were potentially in the line of fire.
Yep.
Why didn't we have boom gates there as well? Other than that, they're like, you guys are managing this really well. So it was that sense of assurance of saying, don't be afraid to have a discussion with the regulators, bring them out onto the site when we're not doing anything wrong. And if we are, they're the best ones to tell us through a collaboration piece, not an inspection where they're going to write you an improvement notice. So get them out, have a chat with them, be proactive. So we did. And it was actually a really awesome process. And everybody was like, oh my gosh, that was a relief. Like, of course it was going to be a relief. They're here for the right reasons.
And the thing is, like, chances are that company or whoever the representative is, the next time that happens, they will know exactly, like communication is probably the key in solving most problems.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And that's the thing about being fearful, about having fear in the safety industry is just lower your guard, have a discussion. I'm sure maybe more than a handful of times I've contacted the regulators and spoken to inspectors and gone, oh, the guys out on site have asked me to do a toolbox talk on this particular issue. Can you just tell me what your thoughts on it are from an inspector? I'm dealing with that issue. They don't need to know that. I'm just preparing a toolbox talk. I get the information from the regulator. I get to take it back to the site and go, okay, this is from a regulator's perspective. So it's all anonymous. Because you can do that. You can contact them. They're not tracking your number. Call them. Ask them. They don't carry around big wooden sticks anymore.
Is it?
No.
Okay.
And they haven't for a long time. They can if you're doing the wrong thing, obviously. But if you want to do the right thing and you want to collaborate with them, have a discussion. You don't have to be frightened.
That's cool. That is cool.
Yeah. And I like changing that narrative for people, is just to say, you've got this as a resource, use it.
So they're acting more like an expert panel more than a
to a certain degree.
To a certain degree.
Yeah, they've still got to
the stick.
They've still got the stick.
Yeah.
Absolutely, they do. But there is the piece where you can contact them and you can ask them questions.
Okay. Yeah. That's cool.
You don't have to sit there and go, oh my gosh, am I doing the right thing or not? Just ask the question. Very easy to answer.
That's cool. Now, pro tip, just contact work. What was it?
Safe work.
Sorry.
Yeah, contact Safe Work.
Safe Work. And they might actually help. They might actually help.
They do. Well, they do.
They do. They do actually help.
From my personal experience, they've been absolutely incredible. And I think being on a major infrastructure project as well and having specific infrastructure inspectors that, I'm familiar with, I can ring up and go, oh, hey, this is what we're doing out on site. Do you want to come and have a look?
That's cool.
Yeah.
It's really cool. And on that, Melissa, thank you. Thank you for the talk. It's amazing. I've learned so much. It's not even funny. And if you guys liked it, follow Melissa on LinkedIn.
Thank you.
And if you want her to consult for your work, your projects, grab her, PM her. Amazing.
Thank you.
Wealth of knowledge.
Thank you so much.
If you liked the conversation, please like, comment, and subscribe to our channel.